Hi everyone. Hi Jay.
Hey, Sina, how's it going?
Hey.
An
Good.
eventful, an eventful 24 hours for you.
I'm not banned. I'm not banned. You can't get rid of me. That's all of that line is. That line is bouncing through my head. It's been quite an eventful 48 hours. I yeah. So we're doing this live stream today to kind of go over what the hell happened. I still don't know what happened. I'm also traveling, as you could probably tell from behind me. If people who are watching, I've been traveling for the
You
last
mean that's
week.
not that's not what the glorious Sina bedroom actually looks like?
Yeah. Yes, yes. This is how I live. Don't tell people how I live. Yeah. So I've been on the road. I've been working on it. It's funny actually. There's a lot. It's weird how life, tumultuous things happen when I'm in Montreal. I'm working on a. I'm sort of putting. I'm doing working on a. I've been working on this kind of documentary. I guess I can announce it, for Red Media, Red Nation podcast. I'm aiming, I'm promising it now, and by doing this, I'm forcing myself to have it done. It's going to be out for September 30th, which is Orange Shirt Day here in Canada. Um, and I am going, I want, it's the reason why I'm bringing this up is that at last time I was here in this town working on this, that was when the internet was coming back on in Iran in January. And there was the big blackout, internet blackout for a few weeks, I think, if memory serves me right. Yeah, it was like 3 weeks or so. And during that time, there was this crazy, bloodletting, slaughterfest, ISIS attack, nationwide ISIS attack. And I was working on this documentary. It was really sort of emotionally involved. It's about a lot of unpleasant things, as one does when working on Red Nation podcast. It's not a lot of times. It's not a lot of fun things you talk about. So, and that time too, it was looking pretty bleak for Iran. It was looking like, yeah, regime change is coming, or at least that's what the imperialists wanted you to believe. So I'm back here doing another round of filming and kind of doing some B-roll and all that stuff, and much more. I have a much more like competent team. I didn't have any team. The team I had was the team of me last time, and this time around I got a lot of help, and the footage that I got in the last few days has been amazing. And but in the midst of all this crazy thing happened where I woke up in the middle. I woke up and I was like, "What's weird? Why? What's going on?" And I look at my phone and I check my phone for like just because I have a lot of YouTube channels that I organize, um, and I said to people like, "Oh, I got banned." Like I was like, "Oh, your channel has been removed for violent. What was it? What was the actual thing? Violent criminal organization for for violating our policy against violent criminal organizations." I think that's what it was. I can
Yeah.
find it. It's very strange, and I was like, okay." Here we go. Where was it? I can't even. Okay, yeah. Here we go. Your channel, The East is a Podcast, wasn't following our policy on violent criminal organizations. We removed it to protect our community. If you think we made the wrong call, we'd be happy to take another look. Begin your review to see more info and start your appeal. So that was 2 days ago, August 18th. Um, they said, yeah. So then I was a little shocked, and I haven't really had time to sort of look at it. I tweeted about it, like as just to just kind of announce it, and I kind of went about my day because I had a lot to do, and I had to go to my work. I had to go film, and the stuff I was filming too was like not fun. It's a documentary. I mean, I guess I can announce it. It's a documentary about the Mohawk mothers, and they're a group. Red Nation Podcast has profiled them a few years ago. They're a group of Indigenous women, um, from here, based in their homeland here of Ganawage, which is right across from the city of Montreal. And I filmed with some of the elders, and we talked about the stories that they all had from uh, we all had that they had heard growing up, and that then sort of became more prominent with the discovery of these 215 corpses on the grounds of the Kamloops Indian Residential School in 2021, which sparked a kind of wider, um, sort of reckoning, let's say, with Canada's colonial, basically the crimes of Canada, long running crimes of Canada. And I'm sort of here for that. And so I just had to be doing down to work. And we were filming at McGill University right outside this hospital, very bad juju, as the millennials say, standing, dark stuff. And, just like it's funny, like most of it feels like to me, like when we there's that episode of Simpsons where Bart and Lisa do like the kids news, and there's like a picture of them doing like this, and sometimes I feel that way, that like I'm doing the kids news, and like that's how it kind of exists to me, that like I'm just this guy, and I have this show, and I do the news and stuff. And obviously I'm not putting down my work. I recognize that the subject matter that I discuss is very important, and in fact, it's not that many people talk about that stuff relative to its like global importance. It's like it's relatively few of us tackle these issues. So getting this news was devastating. In a way, it was devastating. It was honestly, and this sounds fake, but I figured that I would, I figured that this day would come, and they immediately rejected my appeal. And I wrote like it was hilarious. I wrote like a one sentence appeal. I was like, I'm not doing this. I wasted enough of my life writing prose for people that don't deserve it. All those letters, like, dear search committee, dear postdoc review committee. Like, I wrote way too many letters in my life for people who never read them. So I was like, fuck this. So I wrote this like one sentence reply, and I just took to online. And what's funny too is that, of course, me being me, I'm disorganized, and I've like immediately run out of data. So I couldn't get any news on my phone the whole day as I was out. Like if I could hit some Wi-Fi, I would go and I would check. I'd be like, wow, this tweet's taken off. But it was only until later that night that I kind of checked in, and like my phone just like exploded and it was all 100% love, like just pure love. And when you do this job, and I'm sure you get this, I'm sure you understand this, Jay, like when you do this job, you're like, who's on the other end of this? Who am I? Like, I'm talking to like a box. Like, this is a box, like, and there's a wall. Like, what is this? So it doesn't feel, and of course you see the chats and the comments, and they give you life and stuff, and you think like, okay, well, somebody's watching clearly. But the response I got from these tweets was insane. I never thought in a million years I would get this kind of response. I thought like, my comrades and stuff would say stuff, but it turns out that a lot of big accounts, like some like big as 300,000, were retweeting me talking about it, and they watched my show, in fact. And I was like, what? And I knew, I mean, I'm not being shy here, but really I have no idea who watches this show. Like, I don't know. Like, I know some of you, but like, you put it out into the world, and you don't, there's no like, you can see stats, but it's like a lot of it's like they tuned in for 2 minutes. A lot of it's a bot. Who knows? And especially like our show is small. Like, our shows are small. We're not Hassan Piker. We're not streaming all day long to like this addicted audience and stuff. We're just we're here. It's kind of something ad hoc about all this. So to see the reaction was very heartwarming. I literally made me cry at one point. I was like, oh my God, this weird show this show that I do, it has this like reach, and it has this like, and there were a lot of people who were discovering the show as a result of all this. I was like, wow, I should have done better marketing all these years. I should have gotten banned long ago. Why didn't I try this? This is great for the health of the channel. But it was a larger realization that like, and whatever, like that kind of, that went to kind of, it built up for a day. They rejected the appeal, so I kind of gave up, and I still had work to do. We had more filming to do yesterday, so I just was kind of like, whatever. And then this morning, I wake up, and then I look. I was like, we have restored your account. I was like, what? because they rejected my appeal. You will not be getting back this. What was it? Here, it's funny. They sent a response to my one sentence appeal. Your channel won't be back on YouTube at this time. We've taken a careful look at your channel again and confirmed that it violates our criminal organization's policy. Violent criminal organ. We recognize it's disappointing news, but our goal is to keep YouTube community safe and supported. Currently, your channel does not have access to YouTube's pilot program to apply for a new channel. Please stay tuned. So I clicked on the pilot program just for, like, I wasn't surprised. I didn't think this would come to anything. And I checked on the pilot program and it was like, you can apply after a year. So basically, this is like they have a system set up where you can crawl back to them. Um, it's like you can crawl back and basically say like, oh, 1 year, it's been like I've done enough. I've done my time in censorship prison, and like it's like they it's like you just think whatever, like you just dismiss it. But then this morning I get yet another email. So it turns out that you don't have to, in fact, do anything, and suddenly they'll just change their mind. And so obviously what happened was this huge response that I got on Twitter. Um, I was how it got, like, this huge response, like people tagging YouTube, people being mad, large accounts, huge accounts were pointing this out, and it even reached like which this is strange, like the Twitter news or whatever, like trending topics and stuff is like Creator East is I was like, what? Like these were all shocking developments in all of this. And I was like, I saw it as a badge. I was like, yeah, like it was Indy from the now dead Resistance is Fertile with Benji, with friend of the show Benji, Indy and Benji, the great guys. Adnan streams with them. And he messaged me. He's like, he tweeted that like, oh, this is the closest thing we'll get to an award, is getting banned. And I think that really nails it, because when you think about what that means is like we don't live in an acceptable world. The media world we operate in is marginal, right? Like we exist on the margins, to talk like Chomsky. Um, the margins that we exist in you think like, okay, whatever. So you don't think that you'll ever reach some kind of mainstream. But it turns out that these websites like recognize things that are popular, or at least topics that are popular or controversial. And so this was a source of controversy. So this is something that I've never really experienced before. Like I don't swim in the sea of getting people to like hate tweet me. Like I'm not that kind of guy. Like I don't do hot, like you're the same way. Like none of us are. We don't do things to get attention. We just say what we think, and we put it out there, and if people get mad, like whatever. But typically too, all of us are so fucking shadow banned that it doesn't even matter anyways. No one's gonna see our tweets anyways. So like what's the point? So the very fact that they deemed it necessary to squish me like a bug was a badge of honor. It is a badge of honor to say that, yeah, they went out of their way to squish me. Now, the fact that they turned around and, unbanned me, and I'm here again, it was a bit surprising to me. But I think, and I'm curious to sort of talk about this with you today, is that, we're living in a strange moment where these media companies need us. They need people like us. We help give YouTube executives their like third boat, right? Like we help them buy their third boat with our work. And they need people like us who do this stuff. And I don't think you're monetized either, Jay. Maybe you are. I'm not sure.
No, I am. Yeah.
No, yeah, I'm not monetized. So all the YouTube ad money goes to YouTube. Like every ad you see during my episodes does not come to me, because I've always felt that I got a longer leash being unmonetized. I don't know if that's true. I don't think that's true. I think I might as well monetize, but I don't care. It's curious to me, because we seem to live in this weird moment where the Zionists who are pushing for us to get banned, and I think what's become clear is that there has been this coordinated campaign to mass report Resistoid channels or pro-resistance channels. So Justin Potter from the Anti-Empire Project has He has a bunch of channels that he has a bunch of videos that they're taking down one by one, all of them mentioning the names of resistance martyrs. You know, Hassan Nasrallah. He did one on Abu Ubaidah. He got another one on Yahya Sinwar. All of those got taken down, and I don't think he was an assess. He was assessed a strike for all of this. I don't think so. And I don't. I was assessed a strike when they put me back on. They put me back on. They're like, "Oh, we took a look again." Um, and it turns out when I said what we said at that time, we meant 24 hours ago, not a year. So, and then what they did was we've taken down this episode, and the episode is an episode of Lara's show, Psychic Militancy, um, and it was called "Everyone Loves Khorram Shah." Right, so Khorram Shah is like a missile, one of the Iranian missiles, um, and they took this episode down and they assessed me for a strike for the violent criminal. So I didn't escape this unscathed. Like you get 4 strikes, which I don't know why. So like you get 4 strikes, I think. Before, well, there's four. There's now 4 pictures in that graphic that I got. I thought it was 3, but there's like 4 empty ones. Well, one of them is full now. So maybe they've given people one more strike, and like all baseball, the rule is changing.
It should be they should be balls, and you get a walk after the.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So in the midst of all this, I realized that like, yeah, this is a strange moment because YouTube, this isn't good for YouTube to do this stuff. Like there is no benefit to them taking down these videos because is someone down the line might come across this video and they're going to watch it and there's going to be ads on it. Like every view, these people are monopoly capitalists. They want everything. They want to consume every second of your life. So, you know, on the one hand, you could say this is bad for them. That like overall, it will add to this impression that that you can't say certain stuff on this channel, which we already know, right? That like, that it will encourage people, and we should talk about this because it's inspired me to really think beyond YouTube now because I've been too dependent on it because it's just so easy and it's right there and everything, all the streaming software links to it, and it's this embedded, let's say, keystone architecture of the digital online space, right? Of the media sphere. So I've been kind of wrestling with this of like, yeah, what do we do? Like, what do I stay on these channels? And so this has gotten me thinking about the future of my channel, and not just my channel, but as you guys know, I produce other people's channels, and it's apparent to me that the Zionists will not stop to report us. They will keep going. They will push that. So, you can't rely on YouTube's rational thinking, the YouTube thinking of like, maybe we shouldn't kowtow to these Zionists so much. But of course, it doesn't even matter because, YouTube is Zionist too. They all are. But it's more like the business of retaining views and sucking up every ad dollar you can, they are dwindling. That is they have to make a choice between their business model, which is it's YouTube. I mean, it's called that. It's for you, or they can say, oh no, YouTube, except if you're an anti-Zionist, except if you talk about this, except if you're from Russia, for instance. And now, so then this is, we know that like, this is not like a big news to us that like, oh wow, Western media institutions are hypocritical and don't live up to their promises. Wow, breaking news. But it really is, I feel that it is irrational for them as a business to do this. I don't think that this helps them. It just makes Zionists happy. That's the only thing I can see that they get into these situations where they do these mass reporting campaigns and no human being really reviews it. They just see that everyone's reporting it and they just let the ban go through. And to my mind, banning a channel that has no strikes with no warning, that is not good strategy. You are basically saying to people, this rug, we will pull it out from underneath you and you get no recourse. So it's happened to others before. It happened, obviously, to Resistance is Fertile. It's happened to Benji's channel. Benji got his channel nuked. And so I just had presumed that this is the end of my days. It was a good run. And the biggest thing that I was sad about were the comments. Like the videos or whatever, the videos are there. but it's I mean, I could get some of the videos back. I mean, some of them would be a loss, but to me, in my mind, I can make more videos. It's like it's all up here. I could just call the people again, and be like, oh, sorry, your episode from 4 years ago got deleted. Let's do it again. And that's actually a good thing in a way, because you have an excuse to do content that you did before. But it was more, the thing that hurt was the community. So that, like, because you look through my channel, and even though I don't have that many followers, I have like not under 9,000. Okay, it's nothing. It's not that much, but I typically get between 2,000, 3,000 views on a channel, which is not bad. Like, it's a pretty good. That's a pretty good. That's a pretty good sort of, I guess, through, I don't know, whatever that's called. I don't know, whatever that rate of that is. There's like a stat for that, but I feel like that's pretty good, and it signifies a kind of health for my channel. And obviously, it's like partly because the strength of our network of shows sustains it, right? That, like, your channel promotes my channel promotes Justin's channel promotes Adnan's channel, or whatever. And even if it's not directly, it's indirectly. That also, we feed each other. So I had Mujamma Harikat on my show, great writer. Go check him out. He did my show first, and then I saw him do other people's shows because people saw his episode with me and were like, yo, I want that. So, like, part of my job too is to find people who are, say, not so platformed, bring them onto my show, talk to them, get to explore their ideas, and other people see the same thing and repeat. So part of this is just kind of like adding to, like, I think it, like everything, it goes back to gardening. Like, I think of it as kind of compost. You add stuff to it, and over time it turns into this like fertile material that more stuff can come out of. So it's yeah, that's a good quote. The more YouTube the more you tighten your grip, YouTube, the more channels will slip through your fingers. And that's essentially what Zionists are getting them to do. They're encouraging us to look past YouTube. And congratulations, Zionists, and congratulations, YouTube, by putting my show back. I appreciate my show getting put back online, but this whole ordeal has taught me that there's no future on this platform. And the fact that they can just like pull away all this work that you did, that's now archived on this site, that you basically leave in trust with them, in the hopes that someone along will come along. Like those documentaries, like I edited a documentary for Red Nation. It was like 4 years ago. It's really good. Everybody go watch it. It's like one of our biggest episodes. It's one of my proudest things. It's called Remembering the Reign of Terror. Remembering the Reign of Terror sits on YouTube. I don't think I have a backup. I'm going to go back up it because I lost that hard drive. I lost the production files for that one in a hard drive massacre of 2021. Oh, that was a bad day. But it was, so like, I don't have a backup. I mean, I think I do now, but like for a while I didn't. But it's more like I'm now learning that I need to back up every single video I did. I need to post it to like, I don't know, 10 other channels. I need to like compress them. Although the ones when you download from YouTube, they're compressed to all hell. So I don't need to compress them again. But basically I need to sort of put them on Telegram, put them on Bilibili. This is the new one that I just learned about. New Chinese YouTube rival. Rumble, I'll do Rumble, whatever. Any site, I'll just do it. I don't care. I'll just open an account. It doesn't cost anything. Like, why invest all your eggs? I mean, it makes sense, right? YouTube is the biggest. YouTube is where lots of people are. So you're like, okay, that's easier. That's an easy thing to do, and it makes sense. It's like a no-brainer. But when they show you that you can't trust them, you say to yourself, what's the point? Okay, I'm done. I'll keep doing this channel. I'll use YouTube until this inevitably happens again. And I'll just, and then in the meantime, you sort of build your arc. So I'm curious, well, at the end of the day, how do we go forward? And this is a question we've asked in this show a lot in our shows, that like, how do you operate in a media environment that's completely hostile to you, that has no, that uses its rules as a cudgel to like attack you and to silence you, while others who break those rules wantonly all the time are pushed by this algorithm, that even if they're reported, those reports get ignored, right? Like, it's funny, the day before I got banned, I was watching this absolute freak on YouTube, on Instagram. I won't even say his name because I'm like, it's like saying the devil's name, but he's this ultra Zionist fascioid pahlavoid in California, I think. and he basically posts Iranian like news commentators, or not commentators, but like people who work on like the Iranian state media, and he like puts their social insurance numbers, which is like their national ID cards, and then lists the names of their rival, of their relatives and stuff, and basically says we're gonna come and kill you. Like he doesn't say it in exact words, but this is like this is like a this is something that they do openly, right? Like they hex people openly. But because Iranians are allowed to be murdered live on TV and in the West, and you're allowed to call for their murder, they don't get in trouble. And in fact, the top comments were all clap, clap, like, all fashion right now. Obviously, there's a dirtier game, a more complicated game going underneath, which is, Mossad. And like the dirty Zionists run these accounts, if not directly, but feed these guys this stuff. And these systems help them. But it's to me, it's that question again. Is like, do you keep operating under the sort of Damocles sword of censorship, or do you sort of put this away and say, okay, I'm done. I'm not. I'm going to take my ball and go home, because I'm pretty sure. I mean, I hate to speak for him. I'm pretty sure Justin is going to give up on YouTube. And Justin does big numbers. Justin's live streams do big numbers, like 10 times what I do, like what he does, like that in terms of just numbers. So I think he's done with it, and what they're doing now, because it is an act of violence to censor people in this way. Like I'm not like a guy who's like, oh my god, I've been murdered. Like it's not murder, but it's like it is an act of like especially when the part of the world we live in bases its whole political identity around freedom, right? Freedom of this, freedom of that, freedom of blah, 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 blah. Like it goes to the fictionality of our world, of how like, oh, the rules can just change. It doesn't matter now. So I'm curious, like how do you see the future of your show on this platform? Like what do we do? Do we just stay here until until the people don't get angry again, or what?
I don't have a clear answer to that. That was a beautiful 27 minutes of
Oh my
Cena
god, 27
to
minutes.
start us off.
I'm sorry.
But I mean, so I don't know if you remember, but like, I don't know, I guess it was a year, maybe 2 years ago, that my channel had a very similar thing happen. It wasn't banning, but it was like full demonetization.
Yeah.
And we did an episode about it. And it was very similar in terms of the experience that you described. The only thing that I remember going through that it doesn't sound like you went through is I went through the gulag. So they made me go through a test to learn how to identify what is propaganda for violent criminal organizations and how to avoid doing it. So they actually gave examples and like, if you talk about it this way, is that okay? If you talk about it this way, is that okay? And but it was for the same thing, right? It was because we had a episode where a guest spoke about the resistance in Lebanon, right? And did so in a way that was like talking about the dignity of the people that were involved in it, essentially, right? I'm speaking obliquely because there is like a very clear policy here, which I think is really important for people to understand just off the top, right? Is that YouTube has this big catalog of things that you are not supposed to do on their platform. And I think it's hilarious, right, that they talk about keeping the community safe, like save us from Cena. I mean, it's so disgusting, in a world where like our governments are just funneling billions of dollars into missiles raining down on like poor people, that, and women, children, young men, like, and that it is unsafe, right, for us to talk about it, but it's specifically unsafe for us to identify in any way with the people who are resisting that stuff, right? And that is the big difficulty. And that, to be clear, like that has been something that I've struggled with on this platform the whole time is that, you know, and I've talked to you about this before, is that I can't just say what I truly believe and how I really, really feel. Like, you know, I know that I'm in a space where if I spoke the way that I would speak to people if I was face to face with them, that I would be taken down, you know, for doing that. And so it is a problem. And I mean, YouTube is the largest streaming service in the world by far, right? So like it is way the second biggest is Netflix, and it's way bigger than Netflix. Um, and there's interesting stuff. I mean, I do think that YouTube is losing some ground here because, you know, Spotify. I mean, the problem is all of these platforms are owned by Zionists or like,
Yeah.
you know, people who just dump revenue into the Zionist entity. Um, but you know, like Spotify has started doing video as well now, so you can do
Yeah.
video podcasts on Spotify. That's a major competitor at this point. YouTube, actually, I mean, not YouTube, Netflix. This is the funniest thing. I'm like, you know, if we do Tanky Group Therapy once a week, will Netflix give us a spot?
Maybe. I wish we get it.
No,
Yeah.
we're
No,
not big enough yet. But
that's
that's
true.
the but but actually, like a lot of the like in the sports world, a lot of the really big podcasters that made their like really grew their platforms through YouTube have actually now left YouTube and gone to
Mm.
Netflix now, or doing like Spotify and Netflix and stuff like that, or just like cut YouTube out of the equation. So I do think that there's there are competitors, and there's also a reality that YouTube probably is having to face, that it has to be a little bit careful about some of these decisions, because I do think that you getting banned like that, yeah, somebody saw all the tags and the trend and everything else and was like, you know, this is a relatively small channel, but it doesn't look good if we just are crushing channels, you know, and it's going to drive other people to leave too. And yeah, Justin did, like, he did a tweet thread and said that he was going to, you know, leave and go to, you know, find, you know, Substack or whatever, which is in Substack's another one. You can do video on Substack now as well.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of others, like you said, there's Rumble, there's, you know, Twitch, there's all that kind of stuff. And
Odyssey.
so, yeah, so they're losing that. But I do think that the hard part is that even no matter what you go to, all of the platforms are out there are going to have some form of terms of service and community guidelines that are heavily informed by this kind of highly weaponized war on terror language that
Yeah.
is really just to capitulate to Zionism and imperialism, you know. And maybe China is the solution is to sort of look at, you know, places outside, you know, of the imperial core as the place that, you know, could host it. That might be the solution long term. Right now, my child, I just want to say this for the record, he came down here. This is who I was like talking to when it looked like I was speaking. Is he said, "Dad, I'm gonna have Nutella with pretzels," and I was like, "No, that's not a good idea." And he's like, "Well, I already made it, so I'm going to go do it." So my child is on a sugar rush for the ages right now, ladies and gentlemen. And so, anyway, anything could happen. Back to a couple other things that you hit on. I'm just going to jump around to some of the different things that you touched on. The McGill. So, yeah, we had the Mohawk Mothers, 3 of them on our platform a couple of years ago when Mohawk Warrior Society, there was a book
Yeah.
that came out on PM
Yeah.
Press, I think. And yeah, I mean, they were McGill, there was like CIA MK Ultra experiments going on indigenous, you know, children and stuff like that there. I mean, it's just hideous shit. Removed to protect our community. I mean, that's wild.
It's just
You know,
it's like so insulting. It's so like you guys are the criminals. I'm not a
yeah,
criminal. You're the criminals. Ah, it's
seriously.
so
No,
poison.
I mean, I mean, Alphabet, like YouTube, Google is in like that top 7 funders of the genocide for that Francesca Albanese did, right? When she did her like report on like the financial backers of all this stuff. They were in like the top 7, you know? And so it's like they're absolutely the criminals. But I do think that there's a couple things. One, the process is so random and arbitrary. Like you and I have discussions like this all the time, right? And then they just pick one out from however months ago, or in Justin's case, like years ago, right? Like it's been sitting there the whole time, and now you're gonna say, okay, this is in violation, and they'll just jump straight to a ban, right? Like I don't even understand what the fuck is the purpose of the strike system, right? If there is no progressive discipline involved in
Yeah.
this at all, right?
Yeah.
Like when I got demonetized, it was the same thing. Like I had never had a strike. I had never at that point even had like a
Yeah.
copyright hit or anything like that, you know, and they just took it all away. And I was like, I thought there was supposed to be like a, you know, a warning.
Yeah. I
Like you
thought this
can't
was
do this,
America.
you know. And it's just wow. But I think that's the intention too, right? Is to have you feel what you felt, you know, which is like, oh
Yeah.
shit, like I lost all this stuff. And like, you know, and I agree, it doesn't serve them, because now you're like, why do I want to keep my stuff here if they could just take it all away like that? Um,
Yeah.
and so yeah, I mean, I get it. Definitely back up all your shit, Cena. Like, what are you doing?
I
Like first
know.
of
It's just
all,
I have so many shows. There's not enough hard drive space in the world to hold my problem is I hold on to the production files, and this is very silly. You should not hold on to the production files. I'm gonna go back to my house and do like Dickens did when he burned all his letters. I'm gonna burn all my production files. Like I don't need to down. I don't need, some Premiere Pro production files to like. I don't. It's just like takes too much space.
yeah,
It's because of video. It's one thing if we just did audio, but
yeah,
video
videos, yeah,
video generates so much data, and it just and especially streaming with you, it's like 3 hour affair. And so it's like you like of all these episodes that are like 10 gigs, and then you edit the file and they become bigger in the process. And I don't know, yeah, these it's the infrastructure for us is there. We can move to new channels, we can move around. It's just what you lose is the whole point, like, because social media, the power of it is in its ability to sort of bring different people together. I know that sounds so cliche, but in the sense of as it plays the role of the town hall, where all these different actors come together and there's only one town hall, and that's what makes it town hall. So if you need anything that requires other people, you go to town hall, right? And so we've just gotten used to this platform that's so easy and whatever, and right there, and they don't charge you, and it's all everybody's on it and whatever. And but now the horizon for me is, yeah, you got to just, I think Tarek Lubani was talking to Justin, friend of ours. He's talking about setting up PeerTube, which is still unclear to me how that works, but maybe somebody in the comments know. But really, it's really the problem of too many eggs in the basket. Like you really just have to, if you're going to be doing this kind of work, then you have to distribute it along different channels. You have to just accept the fact that one channel here will get 70 views, one channel will get 80 views, that you have to sit there and copy and paste the description to this and spend time uploading. And yeah, it's a bit more work on your end, but at the very least, you have something if something like this happens. Because yeah, like the nature of this rug pull, really the thing that got me upset, like aside from the comments in the community, was like, fuck, what does this mean for my other shows? Because
yeah,
it's one thing for me to like make a new channel and to make new content, but then you think about the other shows that I produce. I can't just get those years back from those people, right? Like it's not feasible. So it's something that was like sticking in me. It's just like, oh, like what do I do? Like you can't win, you can't win against this. And then you realize, oh, maybe if you make a big enough stink, they'll cave. because at the end of the day, that this pressure worked in my case. Um, I do want to bring up the fact that I want to counterbalance this weird story with a much darker, much sadder story that doesn't have a happy ending, which is in terms of what social media can do. Because as this is happening, the fallout of the poor Jason Arday's case is now becoming apparent, and the sadism on the part of these freaks who hunted this guy, who went after them, who used, as the world is burning into a husk, as the burning into a pile of ashes, they go after this guy. And obviously it's because the world is burning and they need to distract, the chud newspaper, they need to attack their chud readers with this. That the story of this guy and what social media did to him versus what it did for me, to me is something, as a lesson in all this, that it worked out for me. That's just how social media should work. And in fact, how it worked out for that poor guy is that they literally bullied him to death, and they took his life, and his kids have to live with that for the rest of their lives. That these fascists who have accomplished nothing in their lives set their sights on him, chased him, used words to do so. They didn't go. I mean, yeah, I know there's stories of him. There's the stories of they left a hog's head on his door or some bullshit. They chased this guy with words. They chased this guy with posts, just stuff about him, pictures of him, newspaper articles, stuff that millions of people read. Right? And people like the chief scumbag, Aaron Bastani, go fuck yourself, you evil piece of shit. I hope Novara never publishes a thing again. I hope Novara fails after this. If you watch Novara, you're helping reinforce his behavior, because he's always been a piece of shit who chased after any stupid fucking thing that the chuds were on. Because what really is the sort of background of all this is that chud media drives a lot of mainstream media now. And it used to not be the case. Chud media used to be in a corner and they used to do their thing. But now, because chuds took over all these channels, chuds took over all these things, they now drive it. So that if you look on all the top answers, it's all right-wing fascists. It's all right-wing fascists now being pushed to the top. So to me, we are on hostile platforms that look to harm people who are doing things like the things that we are doing. And the fact that Novara, which claims to be this kind of left, whatever, socialist, fucking that stupid clown, the other one, whatever her name is, saying, I'm literally a communist. Oh, it's just, I mean, I know the British media sphere is particularly disgusting. It has its own, and of course, it's a much older history of being disgusting than the American one. I mean, the American one is pretty disgusting too, but this is a deep, rich history of chuds screaming into the void while other truds read them and use it to stir up a kind of hate wave. But God, it's just so, the things that these freaks do to just normal people, and they do it in the name of their own wounded souls. And meanwhile, just little channel like mine, I talk about resistance stuff that's to do with liberation of people. We talk about I have the documentary we did. Everybody should watch it. It's amazing about these three people in Gaza just kind of telling their stories. That was something I'm very proud of. That's something that I did, and that got a raise too. I mean, it's back. You should all watch it. If you haven't watched it, you should donate. But that stuff like that, this deserves to be seen by more people. It doesn't deserve to be deleted. And the fact that we have to live in this upside down house of mirrors where you're accused of being this, and meanwhile the fascist freaks call for our murder, or they call for other people's murders, or they actively seek them out. I mean, it's just, I don't know, man. We live in hell. We live in actual hell, and it's, I mean, in terms of media hell, it's hellish.
Yeah, I mean the angry mob is a powerful and dangerous force, right? So you can have, I mean, it, simply put, right, this is not a brilliant thing to say, but it is true that people can accomplish, great and terrible things when they when they work together in large numbers, right? And it is unfortunate, and it's awful. I mean, in the Jason Arday case, and you and I both know a number of people who have been harassed. I mean, our channel, we've had this asshole, what is it, Stu Studio, whatever, from the
Yeah.
Manhattan Institute, who, he hasn't been on us as much lately because he's got a major hard on for the DSA right now. So like that's what he's spending all of his time, is like tracking down individual ones and like trying to map out the different tendencies within it. I'm like, bro, you're getting paid $23 an hour from the Manhattan Institute. Like, your life sucks. But he'll clip things, right? And then they have their own, he puts it on his thing, and then they have all of these AI generated articles that go out to these publications that are owned by people who are on the board of the Manhattan Institute. So it's like this network, right? It's this little fash network
Yeah.
that
It is. Yeah.
disseminates information, and it's all rage bait, right? It's all designed to like red meat for the fascists, of like, what did somebody say today that we can get riled up, and we can try to get them, to lose, like, if they don't have tenure yet, we try to prevent that from happening. If they have tenure, like, they just try to make people's lives miserable, right? And it goes as far as, I mean, again, people we both know, of sexual assault threats, like people being threatened that they'll be raped, people being threatened that they'll be murdered, people being threatened that they'll go after their kids, like stuff like that, off of like something that somebody says on a fucking, podcast. Like, it's
Yeah.
it's wild. And so, I mean, it's terrible. And I do think it's particularly awful that anyone who thinks of themselves on the left, like, I mean, I have massive disagreements with, several, Bastani and Novara and all that kind of stuff, like in terms of what our politics are. But like, you're supposed to be about some kind of fucking like solid, like, what are you doing? Like, why would
Yeah.
you dovetail and jump on and pile on to this like fascist, dumpster fire?
Yeah.
And it's disgusting. It is. And I
Well,
don't know, I mean, even
yeah.
in the times when we've done like more negative stuff, like I'm largely just overdoing that kind of shit, because it's just like, yeah, there's so much to talk about in the world. We don't need to like dwell on like
Yeah.
targeting individual people and shit.
I mean, I think in the end, in the case of Bastani specifically, his MO seems to be that, and this is what, like, a lot of media is like this, which is chasing clicks, right? Like chasing clicks, chasing views, and chasing engagement, basically, so that the you increase you. So if a story is hot, and I remember his first fake apology, he then released a second fake apology. um, the first one, I remember he said, and I don't get me wrong, guys, I don't pay attention to Novara, I barely know it exists, I just hate Aaron Bastani. He's always been a clown, and and the fact that he's half Iranian, or I don't know, full Iranian, is why I reserve so much hate for him, because he's a product of our people. So I feel personally responsible for exposing him for being a rat. So I've gone at him a bunch of times, and and I remember he also got, if memory recalls, he helped basically get two people get arrested, or he helped basically bring attention. He uses his
Yeah,
account and his large following to target people who do things that he doesn't agree with, and that gives license to chuds to amplify it and target those people. So like, that's the sick media sphere we're in, where individuals who have no power, right, are targeted by people who have media power, who then people with actual power, the cops, use that as an excuse to like set an example, right? And so when Aaron Bastani boosts some freaks for when Aaron Bastani boosts some freaks for going after, or like whatever, boosts some freaks for going after this guy, he's like, oh, a story is just a story. But it adds to the fact that, oh, here's this left liberal guy joining on the fun. I mean, he called that poor guy a con man. No, Aaron, you're the con man. The con is that you're a normal human being doing the news who has something to contribute. That's your con. Jason Arne was not a con man. You're the con man. Like that's something that's like boiling my blood right now. I mean, fascioids will do it, but Aaron pretends to be sort of some left liberal clown and is part of a network of people who all claim this. But we know that this is part of a web of a counterinsurgency against people like us, right, who are actually representing the thing they claim to represent, and to then sort of attract away. And of course, Novara is much bigger than any of our channels combined, and so they use that. And it's like, to me, that those kind of this media sphere we're now living in, that is so vile, it's so dangerous, and I'm hoping that finally we can use some of this rage that was now boiling in us, and maybe that's the point of this live stream, to now go after, like, fight fire with fire. So if you're going to target like a guy on our side, or a guy, one of the people, like a normal guy, like, okay, go after Nathan, whatever his Kofnas, whatever his stupid fucking name is, the little weasel ferret boy who led this witch hunt lynching. Now he's being investigated. Now two can play at that game, because it turns out when you leave Twitter, there's a real world of human beings that you have to live in, and the chuds can't protect you all the time. So I'm hoping, at the very least, Novara flushes itself down the toilet, commits media seppuku, and we never have to hear from Aaron Bastani again. Unfortunately, that probably won't happen. But I sincerely ask anyone following this to never let Aaron forget that he helped drive a man to suicide. He really did. Aaron Bastani helped drive a man to suicide. Okay? Don't ever let him forget it. Tweet it. Have a bot. If people who know how to do this, set up bot accounts. Tweet at him the same thing every day. Like, I don't care. Just remind the man that he did this. Because that, to me, is like, I don't know. It's but yeah, there's a lot of unsavory characters in this field, and of course, they're the ones who, they're the ones who get a lot of attention, and they're the ones that these sites platform and push, and in the meantime we get banned and stuff. And I don't know. Oh, sorry, I'm ranting, I'm angry, I'm so pissed off. I'm so fucking pissed off, man.
It's a terrible feeling. I mean, also, especially, I can only imagine it compounded, like when I thought that this was like a risk for our channel, I had backups of everything, and knowing also that you don't have some of that stuff too. Like, I totally get it. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's no easy answer. I do think that YouTube is doing its own version right now of basically what Twitter, kind of ended up doing, which is like committing, like, fucking itself over in a certain way. You know what I mean? Like, because Twitter used to be where everybody was for that type of social media engagement, right? And then, Musk took over. It started to go bad even before that, right? But like,
Yeah.
they totally screwed the algorithms up. They start shadow banning people a whole bunch. They start making people pay for stuff. They gave me, this happened recently, they gave me a blue check for my personal account because they said I was famous. And then they took it away 2 weeks later, and they didn't even explain why.
You're not famous anymore. We don't like you.
Like, I could give two shits, but it was hilarious. I was like, wait, where did the blue check go? They just took it away. I checked my email. I was like, there's no communication about this whatsoever, right? But like, you're in this world now where there's Threads, there's Blue Sky, there's Upscrolled. Obviously there's always been Instagram, and people, like, you go on these, sometimes I go on these different platforms, and I'm like, this is so weird, because one, like, a bunch of these people all used to be on Twitter, but now, like, there's like all of these subcultures kind of developing in these different spaces that are totally disconnected. I mean, there was always like kind of silos on Twitter, right? Or different, you get into your track of like resistoids or whatever it is, right? Where people are having the same conversation within that kind of sphere. But now, like, so much of that is just split into these different places. So you
Yeah.
have like all the libs on Blue Sky, then you have like a lot of what used to be Black Twitter like is on Threads, and it's just it's very weird. But I think YouTube, with these kinds of responses and this like heavy-handed, I mean, it'd be so easy for them to just like have something reach out and be like, "Hey, could you change the name of this live stream? Like you're not actually doing anything that is against our policies, but this name makes it look like you really love military equipment that's attached
Yeah.
to a banned, entity or whatever."
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, is also hilarious because it's like, how do you talk about Iran or Cuba when the government literally says that the entire state is a
Yeah.
sponsor of terror, right? So they say like anything that you talk about with relation to this, unless you are condemning it, which is also why, honestly, like we sometimes we give people shit or we talk about all these people who condemn stuff. But like a lot of that politics of condemnation comes just out of them being afraid of being like banned from certain spaces
Yeah.
for talking more objectively about things,
Yeah.
and I don't, I mean, it's not a compromise I would make, and it's not one that I excuse, but I do understand that that is a lot of where that comes from. And obviously it has a huge impact on people watching stuff thinking, oh, this person's a decent person, but they said this is bad, so I guess it is bad. Even if I still like good things in the world, I have to not like Iran, and it's just like, I don't know, it's fucking awful.
Yeah.
It's really painful that how much the digital space has become a space for the curation of a kind of subject, right? Of, like just setting these firm lines of what people can and can't do. And then you just get rid of the people who don't play along, right? I mean, we all know people who've been banned from Instagram, kicked off of Twitter, like all of these things over the years for being pro-Palestine. Obviously we know people like Steven Salida who've been, you know, chased out of the US Academy and all of this stuff, or so there's just so many examples of it. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's really, it's hard because so much discussion does happen in these digital spaces, and obviously it does give you that allure of being able to connect with, even if we don't have large audiences, we're not going to go out in our community and talk to a few thousand people who are also interested in, you know, these things, right? And having these kind of conversations, right?
I
Like,
should you should my neighbors when they're like they don't know what I do, at least I don't think they do, but all of them are like chuds, but they're like rural chuds and they're like my neighbors, so they accept me. They're not like, I find liberals are kind of different with when they find out your politics are scary for them. I don't know. There's something different about how they sort of navigate the question of like I told one of them, I was like, I'm a communist. I hate liberals more than you do, dude. Like, believe me. And he was like, like the look of like the jaw at the bottom of all this is like, this to me says that, okay, we have an interesting comment. Secret Dance Move, who's been a hater this whole podcast, I'm gonna put him on blast. Cena just overreacts when he just needs to be smarter in his presentation and the way he disseminates the information. See, here's the thing about that. You let them win by getting you to self-censor. It's not about being smart and being dumb. Okay, that's like, you're not you it's not to say that invites trouble by being like X group is amazing, this band, they're amazing. You don't have to do that. Like, you can just talk about it in a normal way, and you still get in trouble. And there's also an assumption behind that, saying that, oh, if you don't break the rules you won't get in trouble. I'm sorry, the right wing break all the rules and they do it gleefully and they don't get in trouble. We live by different set of rules. So like this is a different situation where we live under the constant threat of being censored. It's not about moving about that, oh, don't say it. But no, this is not you can't at a certain point when you're in these spaces, you either say the things that are on your mind and you say them in a way that's not illegal, and then they make it illegal because somebody who doesn't like what you're saying says that, oh, it's a crime, it's a crime. So then they go find an excuse to do it. But I don't think there's a way to avoid YouTube censorship. If YouTube wants to censor you, you will. They will, and they will come at you anyway. And I don't think that right wingers who get away with it, they do it because they're smart. No, they get away with it because they're right wingers, and we live in a fascist fucking country, and we're the enemy, and they get supported. Remember, Discord helps these sites. Okay, people hating on each other and fighting, they help these sites. Okay, they help them. It helps these sites. You bring hate to your community, and this is the Aaron Bastani model. Say stuff that chuds say, but say it to your lib and sock them followers and get them mad at you and get things. And this is also the new Twitter, although this has kind of died down too because the blue checkmark thing, like the whatever partner program, it hasn't been paying. They basically said we're not going to pay this. It's like so it kind of stopped, but basically we were in a moment where somebody tweeted this once that like the new Twitter, you can't tell if someone's genuinely like unintelligent and like wrong, or if they're just being haterish to get attention. You just don't know, right? So it's like that to me is a situation that is like structurally aimed at people like us, because chuds can make all the noise they want, and Twitter will boost that noise, and they will get more attention, and it will fund them. And then the people who disagree with them, which is most normal people, will say, oh my God, can you believe what this chud said? I can't believe it. Chud alert, and that feeds it. Right. And so like this is something that I never want to be a part of. And unfortunately, I fall for it many times. I try to not give blue check marks who are doing like obviously baiting. I try to not do that. Sometimes it's better to just screenshot and yell at them. And you are helping them in a way, because some of your followers, when you have like as many as we do, will go and chase down the original account and make fun of them and whatever. Like I have my own enemies online and I go after them on occasion. But typically I haven't. Especially now. I mean, at the beginning, people I'm sure will remember, I was a much more confrontational guy on YouTube, on Twitter than I am now. I was, that was my thing. I would do it, and it was, I think part. I'd like to think that I wasn't doing the thing of like I was generating views for myself. I just wasn't. I'm just like a genuinely confrontational guy, and I confront people that say stuff that makes me mad. And I'm unlike my peers in academia who run from confrontation, who structure their lives and their self-presentation to avoid confrontation. I just say what I think, and I get in trouble, and it costs me friendships sometimes, and it costs me colleagues, and it costs me money sometimes. But guess what? I don't care. Throw me off these internets and I'll keep talking. Like it doesn't stop me. I'm not afraid of being deplatformed. I'll just keep talking. It's okay. I'm talking to 5 people. I'll talk to my dog if I have to. Like I still have the ideas. I'm not a phony. Whereas like people who do well in media are phonies. They're paid to be phonies, because phonyhood, which is not to say they're insincere. I just mean in the sense that they say things that help them that help them generate controversy, that then, because the point is not to sort of engage in an exchange of ideas, which is like a bullshit liberal thing anyways. We know that the Enlightenment's fake, but like, and I'm still abiding by it for some stupid reason. But it's like, it's more to the fact that like, there's not that many people talking about the things I talk about. And there's not that many people taking the positions. So, like, I remember, and I'll call him out by name because that's what I do. I remember Eskender Sadeghi Burujerdi, former friend, former colleague of mine, helped my show greatly. He said to me once, you just don't be so full-throated about your support for Iran. And I was like, but I am? Like, and he just like looked at me like I was an alien. Oh, look who joined us. Adnan's here. Hi, Adnan.
Hi, condolences and congratulations simultaneously, Stina.
Thank you, Adnan. Thank you, thank you. I hope the
Good to see
dentist
you
wasn't
today.
too painful. I hope. Are you sore? Did you get numb? Did you get
Oh no,
numbed at the
no,
dentist?
it was just a cleaning. So
Okay, good,
just a typical stop at the dentist, and
good.
yeah. But I was trying to listen on my way back and to what was going on, and so I've missed a lot of the conversation. But I hope you both are well. Jay, it's great to see you.
Great to
And
see you,
Tina,
Adnan.
you're online. You're back online. So
Yeah, I'm
that's
back online.
great.
I think one of the reasons I haven't been able to reach out to you, Adnan, and responding is because I ran out of 5 GB of data, so I only have like 5 on my plan. So I haven't been able to like access my news. So you've been contacting me. I've been slow to respond, but yeah, we've been talking a lot about what happened. I gave a full breakdown that took like. And it took 27 minutes of everything that happened. But since you are one of the hosts I produce for, this affects you because I was worried next that like, what if they go for Adnan's show next? Like, what are we gonna do? Like, Adnan produces a lot. He does a lot of content. He doesn't pull his punches. It's so it was the real anxiety I was having for the last 2 days of like, what's gonna happen to my other shows? Like, what's gonna happen to my clients? Because I can rebuild. I'll be, oh, the East is a podcast too, like, or whatever. All right, but it's the idea of forcing my clients or getting the host that I know to sort of do it all over again. It's like, oh, this is not the way. We have to do something better.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, when I heard the news like 6 a.m. yesterday morning, I mean, I said, okay, today I'm going to download everything. I've not been great about backing up everything. I'm going to download everything. And so it improved my habits, just to archive everything. And also, I started thinking a little bit about, okay, how would I try and reconstitute something like the community and the program in some alternate mechanism? And I realized that while there are some other streaming sites and so on, YouTube is pretty uniquely among these media kind of social and media companies or entities as kind of a monopoly compared to if you get kicked off of Facebook and banned there, there's probably, there's X, there's, X Twitter, there's Threads. I mean, and Jay, you were saying it used to be everybody was on Twitter, X, and it's what made it a much more exciting place to be, because even with the siloing of who you follow and what comes on your feed, you did come across other people and there were more opportunities for those kinds of exchanges. Not that those exchanges in 144 characters or whatever led to very substantive discussions, but at least you'd encountered views from other people. People were retweeting and linking articles from media that maybe I wouldn't follow or come across. And now there's been this further segmentation with like the liberals on Blue Sky and Threads and and so on. But really, where do you go for kind of video content and engagement besides YouTube? Sure, there's Rumble, there's this, there's that, but there isn't really the same kind of density. If you get banned from Facebook, maybe you should actually be thankful. Like you're probably going to meet like more interesting people or a different age range or something. There are options, but YouTube is really a monopoly. And it's interesting that it seems now that there is some more concerted effort to police what's happening here. And that's a concern. And, I will say that our friends, colleagues from Resistance is Fertile podcast got 2 channels taken down, one of which was for, I believe, a comment I made on my channel, but because they clipped it, and it was again one of these where I was, just as you were saying before, Jay, discussing actually what's happening in the world, and doing so can be characterized and seen as somehow being supportive, right? Just talking about the facts can be seen as supporting. And what does it mean, to give material support if you are actually analyzing the material conditions and do accept that resistance is a right of oppressed peoples, of occupied people suffering settler colonialism. I mean, it's so easy for anything you say about what's actually happening, like when I was discussing the Islamic resistance in southern Lebanon doing amazing things, i.e. militarily, it was amazing because everyone had assumed that they'd been destroyed, and that post the so-called ceasefire, simply because they hadn't responded to the 15,000 violations of the ceasefire by Israel until, what was it, March 2nd or something like that of this last year, that they had been destroyed and were incapacitated. And so it was quite amazing that they were, in fact, resisting fairly successfully in southern Lebanon. But even saying that and mentioning the name of the organization, was enough to get their channel taken down because they were reposting clips of it. And I was just waiting for when's the shoe going to drop on mine channel, since I'm the one who said it on my show, on my channel, and I've been kind of waiting. I mean, this, attack on the East as a podcast without warning, actually, that felt even closer to me because, Sina, you're, helped launch this channel. You're a producer for the channel. We've been on each other's programs so much. And, that really kind of reminded me that we are just on borrowed time. I mean, we have to use this platform while we have it. But these are not stable entities for us to do the kind of political work. We enjoy it while we have it, and everybody in the chat value the opportunity that you have, because we don't really know whether this is going to survive, because it is being effective in putting people in touch and exposing them to ideas and perspectives that are very challenging to the established political, economic order. Eventually they have to do something about this space. Like, they can't just let people do all of this organizing and consciousness raising that, if it does become more organized and more of a threat, I mean, the more it's successful we become, the more likely it is, in fact, actually, that it will be shut down as a space because it's a threat. So that's something that I took from the last couple of days, again, of seeing the East as a podcast channel shut down. I'm really glad that it's back up, but it's not something to take for granted, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, Sina, I wanted to say thanks, Adnan, and then great to see you again. It's been a while. I always appreciate the work that you're doing. So one thing, Sina, that you did say, which is very true, is that your channel is, I think, quite unique in terms of how frequently you have platformed folks because of the knowledge that they have, the study that they engage in, the scholarship that they engage in, totally regardless, and often, well, just say totally regardless of whether they have, like you don't seek out people who are like, "Oh, this person is a prominent left academic who brings an audience with them that I know if I do a show with them, I'm going to get 10,000 views because 10,000 views just travel this person wherever they go."
Yeah.
You actually seek out it, as you would put it, probably the freaks in a certain way, right? The people who the people who are really dedicated to studying a specific thing and have a lot to share, but are not media personalities, even of a small kind of, niche like academic or, social media with a big platform and that kind of stuff. And I think that's an incredible public service that you have done for your audience and for, like you said, the other podcasts, right? Because it also does give us the opportunity to say, oh, Cena had that person on. Let me go see how it went. And oh yeah, that seems great. Let's have this on. And I know I've done that before. And you mentioned that, Adnan and others, I'm sure, have as well. But I do want to say, because you also are very bad about promoting your
Yeah.
Patreon, Cena,
Yeah.
that people should support your Patreon while you have that platform, because it is a great way for people to thank you and to support the work that you're doing. As you mentioned, your channel is not monetized. Anybody thinks you get a lot of money from YouTube monetization doesn't really know how it works. They get like a penny and then they split it and they give you like a tenth of the penny and then they're like, here you go.
Here you go.
um,
Here's your reward.
but Patreon is the way. I think that for now, I've also we've talked about this before. I'm worried about censorship and them cutting people out of those platforms as well, because they've also adopted a lot of policies that seemingly are designed to move in that direction, but I haven't seen it happen en masse. There's a couple of examples I know, but not a whole lot. But I think that that's one thing I would say, is that people should absolutely support Cena's show. And then because I think the thing about taking it, there's two things. Like, you can put it anywhere. The chat is the difficult question, really. It's like, if you move to a different platform, will all these wonderful people who engage and listen, will they join? Can they? Does it even have the infrastructure for that sort of thing over there, right? Is another question for some of these alternative platforms. But it is also, this, because YouTube gets you in front of more people than some of those places will, will you reach that person who's going to sign up and help support the show too? But so anyways, I just wanted to plug what you do, because I do genuinely appreciate it, and also encourage people to support your Patreon. And also just say to Secret Dance Move that you are like this all the time. So if anybody who thinks that Cena puts on like an extra layer of something when he comes on in podcasts, like I promise you, as somebody who's
It might be worse in real life. You might be toning it down.
Adnan has experienced me in real life. Unlike Jay, Adnan, I went to Adnan's house once and I bullied him into buying a new TV. That was a great day.
He's the force of nature. Yeah.
Patreon is a big question here, because even more, like, to kick people off of Patreon, to like kowtow to Zionists for Patreon to do it, that is suicidal. And that is actually suicidal for them. And something that I've been impressed by Patreon so far is that they've never even sniffed at it. Now that I've said that, some bad actor watching this is going to say, "Oh, don't mind if I do." But it would be suicidal for Patreon, because there are other places you can get support. Is it as good? I don't know. Is it as common? Probably not. But it's something that if they kick me off of Patreon, it would be a signal to others. Now, remember Ukraine 2022? I'm pretty sure they kicked a lot of Russian creators off of Patreon then. I'm pretty sure, because I think they put on like the same kind of, I think OFAC or something, Office of Foreign Asset Control or something. I'm pretty sure they put the same OFAC that they've had on Iran. So Iran, you can't ever connect to Iran.
Sanctions is the problem. Yeah.
So like sanctions, like legal stuff is different. But like caving to Zionists who don't like what you're saying, that would be very suicidal for Patreon. So far, they have not done that. Now, do I know people who say talk about Iran, who then, who are on Patreon, who then got a threatening letter from Patreon, who then had to say, "Oh, I'm not connected," and you had to disavow and do the thing you always have to do? Yes, I do know one case of that, but I've never gotten a whiff of censorship or interest in censorship from Patreon. Can that change in the increasingly reactionary media sphere we're on? Maybe. Like it could possibly lead to that. I can see that happening. But it's an example I was already saying earlier, is that it's not actually good for these sites to do this. That like they need every penny and they need every view. I mean, does YouTube literally need every penny? No. Does Patreon? No. But that sense of security that people have, okay, I'll just start a Patreon. Oh, I'll just start a YouTube. It's safe. When that goes, when people start saying like, hey, don't do that, they cut off this guy. Like, hey, don't do that. Like that is something that will then cause them problems. So to my mind, that when that happens, when you see channels like ours getting deplatformed, then maybe it's already happening and I just missed it. I can see like that's like that to me is like, yeah, it's something that worries me, but it also doesn't worry me because it's like, okay, well, that's the next phase of this, whatever this is. Like it's not something that will to my mind will be sort of portend a future for those companies because they rely upon this image of stability, and if that stability goes, people will leave. There's other places. There's not the only sheriff in town that can whatever, that can take your money and post stuff. And even now, it's the same thing you said earlier about Substack. They're all trying to like eat each other's lunch. So like Substack is trying to be like YouTube and Twitter. It's trying to do both, and Patreon. In fact, it's trying to do that. Like, they have like quips now, which are basically like tweets. Like they on Patreon, like Patreon is trying to do that. Patreon is trying to gear you towards that. So they are kind of fighting the Silicon Valley, and the fact that they're all probably within like a 45-minute drive from each other. They're probably employees, all know each other and talk to each other because this is ultimately Silicon Valley isn't that big, and these sites, especially in the Angloid world that we're in, there's not that many of them, and they're like, it's not like this is something that this is something that for them, they know, like they notice the response to like my little show getting people upset. I mean, partly it helped that big accounts tweeted about it. Like I had some big accounts. Like there's a great account who's here now, or at least said they would be here. Israel Exposed. They have 250,000 followers, or no, a third of a million. It's like 345,000 followers. Like I have like 20, and I'm like shadow banned to all hell. But if you have a big enough account, you can break through that stuff, and especially. I think people recognize too that like when you just do this, when you do this rug pull, that is a threat to all of us. That's something that they're signaling to all of us that like, hey, we're coming for you next. So it was heartening to see that. It was heartening to see that kind of response from me, and I'll I don't know. I have to really go through the tweets. I haven't had a second really to breathe here, so I'm gonna go and be touched and go do. I'm the validation vampire inside of me will go and be happy after all of this, because yeah, like you again, you do all this in the background. And especially I work on other people's shows, so they don't really know I'm there. And I see the same thing for my own host that like, oh, 1,000 views on this, 2,000 views on this. It's not that much, but it's the nature of those views that's also a figure in all in years. That like, it's one thing to get like 300,000, but like, are people really deeply engaged? But like, we have very good engagement, even though we don't have big numbers. So it's like quality over quantity is another story and over here that that we should think about. That like the nature of our community is because the few who follow us really follow us. They listen to our words. They like download our episodes. They chase us down. So that's like, to me, it's like that's something that's both a good and a bad thing that we have, that we don't do big numbers, but the numbers we do are intense, that they follow us, that it means something to them. And that to me is very proud. Like, I don't think most people care about whatever mainstream media they follow. Like, I don't think they care. Maybe, like, I remember I had my Topanga landlord. She was big into Rachel, what's her name? Rachel Maddow. Like, she really thought Rachel Maddow was her friend. And sure, there's like, they probably like, but I think that like, there's something that like those big companies would never get that we have, which is the kind of local, intense link that people have with us. And that's something that's cultivated through the fact that we're on the margins and they're not, that they're these normies, and all the bad thing, all the sort of normie stuff and gets put on them. And we just have basic, like, who's following us and hating our watch? I mean, maybe they have stuff recording us and I mean, that's something I wanted to also ask too, is that we are being surveilled at all times. Like this transcript is being studied by our enemies. There's probably AI reading all these transcripts and finding clips and keeping some folder on us so that God knows what day when it arrives that they can show us there are our thought crimes. But if you think like that, I mean, and this is my recommendation to people watching this, if you think like that, then they've already won. If you're self-censoring, they've already won. Now, do I have a career that can be affected profoundly by Zionists? No. Like, I mean, I guess I do now. I mean, I guess I do. But like, am I a professor at a university, for instance? Am I untenured? Am I a lecturer? If I had less career security, maybe I would think twice. Maybe I would say, don't say Hezb, say the party. Like don't say Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad. Don't say that stuff. Say Mokawama or whatever. Like, find ways to dance around this. Like, I don't know. Maybe I would have a different material outlook in all of this, and I would pull my punches because, yeah, like, it's either pull my punches or not pay my rent. But thankfully, I'm not in a situation like that, and in fact, it probably helps me that I don't pull my punches because it probably increases the bonds that people have who see everyone around them, or at least people in our sphere, pulling their punches and say, hey, that guy doesn't do that. So actually, like, in a way, people self-censoring and people saying, oh, don't say that thing, helps people like me, because they're like, wow, Sina doesn't give a fuck, and I really don't give a fuck. Like, I really don't. I just say it and it comes out and whatever, and like, consequences be what they will. But I guess in some ways it's kind of like, yeah, I've built this situation where I can talk like this and it helps me. But then when I got banned, I realized, oh, I can't talk like that. Oh, I guess there were consequences to all this. I guess because I was expecting something like this. I was expecting some kind of rug pull, but when it happens, you don't. When you see, because I have like YouTube Studio app, and if like I change my accounts, it tells you, oh, so many followers, so many followers. And then I looked at East as a podcast channel removed. I was like, what? Like that's how I found out. It was like 5:30 in the morning, and I was like, what the hell? And that was like a wake up call. So I don't know, guys. I'm talking a lot. I'm sorry. I'm like wired. I had a monster energy. It really makes me a monster.
They do make sure that push notification when something fucks your channel that comes
Yeah,
like the
true.
first. It was the same thing. I woke up and I was like, "Oh, what?" Yeah, it's just an awful feeling, And then having to submit yourself to the review process. I mean, it's good that you did the one thing, and I do think that it was the community of people being outraged by it and tagging YouTube and all of that stuff that I'm sure somebody was like, oh, we should probably look at this and see whether we really need to do this,
Yeah.
So shout out to all the people who did that.
Well, that's
Thank you, everyone.
that's the other component of it, is that it's either kind of Zionist complaints, and they take those very seriously when they're made and specifically directed, or it's AI with the algorithm, kind of just going through the churn and, keywords or keyword combos or, whatever, just get processed this way, to kind of suppress, based on this, artificial, algorithmic censorship, that's working. Because who are these media companies? What are their, they have obviously a desire to make money, which means, as many views and engagement and all of that makes them money, but they are also heavily invested at a different level in ideological terms with the, disinformation war, with the control of information. And then there's explicitly, actual, right-wing Zionist and corporatist figures who are also looking to suppress, real understanding about the material conditions of the world and a desire to actually try and bring people together to do something about it, to change it. So, that's one kind of component of this, is the automation and the embedding. What could illustrate more the systemic ideological character uh, of these enterprises, and the way in which they must ultimately suppress free thought and political critique, then the way it's systemically embedded in these algorithms, right? So that seems to me that we have a real issue or a real problem with how everything is being automated. This is just one component of that, is that everything about how we interact and communicate with one another, and how we produce and reproduce and circulate knowledge, is now being kind of aggregated and automated, and there's a real vicious kind of component of this. So I think the Cena rant, for example, is like an absolutely necessary defiance to the conformity and the conventionalizing and the normalizing of abhorrent kind of principles as established kind of principles for polite discourse, etc. So that's another thing that actually the channel has contributed, and of course you being guest on a lot of other shows as well, is bringing out the spontaneous, insurgent sort of analysis and connections that go into a proper Cena rant. That is always going to be antithetical to the corporatist, Zionist, imperialist, capitalist, AI, censorship protocol and regime. So I guess that's part analysis and part appreciation for why these kinds of spaces, while we have them, we have to cherish them.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Adnan.
Absolutely.
Jay,
yeah, I have to
bounce,
but thank you. It's great to see you again, Adnan and Cena. I'm grateful that I had offered you when you got banned. I was like, you can come on my channel and you can rant about it and talk about it, and we can support wherever you need to move to show people where you're at. And of course, if that does ever come to pass, then of course that offer stands. But I'm grateful that we were able to co-stream this, and that your channel's back on, and that the people won, and the Cena rant is here to stay against the will of AI or Zionists or all of the above.
I think that's my longest rant ever. 27 minutes. That's longer than a sitcom. I don't know. I had it in me.
Yeah, which
Thank
is
you,
only
Jay.
22 minutes of actual content, right?
Yeah. Thank you, Jay. It's always good to chat.
Yeah.
And let's
Great
do
to
another
see
one
you
soon.
too, Jay.
Take care.
Yeah, so I will.
Did your kid have
keep the
Nutella and
stream.
pretzels?
Yes, he did, and I have no idea what's going on upstairs, which is one of the reasons I need to go. But I will leave this stream on my channel. I'll just turn my camera off, and you can pull me off screen. But great to see you both.
Jay.
Thank you.
Take care.
Yeah, that's another thing that you said, Cena, that was interesting, or just reminded me of, even if we don't in this sort of space do big numbers, right? It's not these 50K, 100K, for these videos. There is something important about long form, extended analysis, deep engagement with real kind of issues and real analysis about what's happening in the world. And what I've seen as a result of it is, even though like I will have very few views on most of the videos under 5K, it's great when you get 4,000 or 5,000, like that's like a big big number for a channel like mine, and yours you get maybe a bit more, but we're not talking about 10,000 typically, right? For a video where you had a discussion or an interview. Maybe some of the tanky therapies would go up to that level. I was a kind of powerful genre, and at the times that you were doing them, they were serving such an important need. But my sense is that there is deeper engagement, and even though the numbers seem to me kind of low, I will go to activist spaces or where I'm giving talks at conferences, and at least a few people will say, oh, we really appreciate what you're doing on Tanky Therapy, on your channel, on this, on that. And it seems like you have a great kind of community of people doing this kind of work online together. And it has an impact, even if it's not massive, effect on like hundreds and thousands of people. What I've thought of it as, and I think I mentioned this in a previous struggle session or Tanky Therapy, is that the activist, committed anti-imperialist community is dispersed. It's larger than we think, but it's dispersed. And people experience in their daily life, in their workplaces, in their school environment, in their community, activities, in their sports league or whatever, serious isolation because they don't feel anybody appreciates, understands, is thinking about these issues and topics, and we can just go through a genocide and have normal life, right? And that's what people in North American capitalist consumer society seem so practiced and capable of, is of compartmentalizing the horrors that are happening in the world so that they can still have their potluck picnic, their kind of sort of world stay intact. And of course we have to still live, but there's something kind of unreal about that. And these spaces provide some check against reality, that you're not alone in understanding that these cannot be tolerated and that we have to do something about it. And it gives encouragement for the people. We may not be converting a lot of new people, but the people who are the backbone of whatever kind of resistance there is or may be in the imperial core, do take some solace, it seems to me, and encouragement and sense of community and continued purpose and re-energizing of the exhausting practice of having to try and speak to people, to push back against the terrible complicity of our societies. That's exhausting for people. And one thing that your channel and Jay's Millennials Are Killing Capitalism, and that we can try to do, is to bring some of those people together, to give them encouragement, to reaffirm that you are not crazy. This world is insane, but you are not crazy, and we have to change it. So that's what I think is also, even if our model is not about doing the big numbers, as you've sort of also said many a time to me, when I'm like, yeah, but there's only like 1,000, for this video. And it was such a great discussion. Or when I have like Hoda Amori on from Palestine Action, the people who are actually doing the most work, that, really we need to replicate and think about how one can be effective in putting pressure to end this whole network of the war machine and war, the military industrial, security, information, and intelligence complex. We have to have ways to push back against it. I'll have 800 people, watch that video among the least. And to me, it's like, well, this is the most important conversation we could have had, because here are people we could learn from about how to do this. But it's like, it's going to inspire deep connection and thinking, in this community. That's what we're doing, is not trying to get the big numbers or to convert people, but to actually, have the serious conversations and provide that sense of community and deep connection to the cause of justice, right? So it's a different model that we're trying to do, and it's not meant to be successful in the usual metrics of a capitalist consumer society. It's really oblique to that. We have to take into account that these are platforms. If people are trying to survive on the basis of this kind of media work, it's going to be a struggle. It's going to be quite difficult to do it. But typical metrics for success are not, to me, huge numbers, but quality engagement and then you look at the chat and you see, oh yeah, this is doing something for the people who really, find this useful. That's who we're trying to kind of connect with and communicate with.
Yeah, totally. And we both of us, obviously you're still in academia, but I also came out of academia, and there is a very powerful and pervasive culture of obscurantism, right? Where, oh, I'm silently like toiling away in an archive reading texts. I remember my advisor, Dickensian, Jonathan Grossman, shout out to him, taught me a lot. He's a good teacher. He said to me, he's like, listen, there are books that I know I am the only person that have read since they were published. Like somebody published a book in the 1840s or an essay, and then it sat there, someone bought it, they didn't read it, they put it in a collection, and then me in 2020, whatever, I pulled it out of the library and I read it. And like I realized that like there's a certain degree of truth to that like there's a lot of what people say and do that doesn't get noticed by anyone. And then it's the job of scholars long after the fact to go digging it up and bring it to a larger audience. And but the result of that though is people, I think there's a lot of it just seems to me that it relies upon a class of people like me who take that kind of that take their work and bring it to a larger audience and hopefully translate it, because it's one thing to sort of bring out something that has been completely forgotten or buried by time, and then to write about it and incorporate it into something bigger, right? But because that thing that you published around that obscure text is also limited in its reach, because the class of people that it's aimed for is small and also shrinking, by the way. Even if you try to have a bigger audience, even if I'm not saying that, my advisor Jonathan doesn't want to have more people read his stuff, of course he does, but it's the result is the nature of academic work has reached, let's say, maybe for specialization, maybe because of the class of people doing it, that it's smaller and smaller circles of people consuming this stuff, but also larger circles of people writing this stuff. So fewer people have more to read, which results in things disappearing, right? And so there's tons of academic studies that you think, how come more people don't read this? How come more people don't say this? And it's like, it's not that not enough people read X, Y, or Z. It's not that. It's that the world of people who care is small, or is like that there's a vast, I think, I want to say, I've called it like sociopathy before. It doesn't, because like sociopath doesn't feel anything, right? That's the kind of like technical term or whatever, or like the psychologists say. But it's like it's almost as if there is a kind of pervading sociopathy to our culture that says, oh, those big violent things that our government is doing, it's over there. I can't do anything about it, right? I can't, and I just live in my small world. And the fact that so few, and that fact that like Zionists have used their considerable power in the media to strangle anyone talking about this genocide, to get it off air, to not show the atrocious crimes that they're committing, that it falls to us to talk about them. It falls to us to highlight them. And that to me is a kind of structural issue here, which is, do we have to bring this out to a larger audience. We have to translate these people. It's on you. You're still in academia. I'm kind of on the outskirts of it, not even but you're still in it. So your colleagues are the ones who share your views, or the ones who are doing work that you think is important. You bring that audience. So my work is to help bring you to those people, right? And so like that's been kind of how I've seen myself in all of this, that the shows that I produce, they don't have a huge media footprint. They don't have in terms of actual consumers, but their effect and how they resonate, and how authors say that Nick brings from his world onto Red Nation. I discover them because I'm sitting there listening to the podcast, editing it. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. So one figure is a book that I keep citing is Ned Blackhawk, and his book has changed his book, The Rediscovery of America, completely blown my mind. I'm on my third read through of it, and it's something that I recommend to everybody And that to me is like my thinking grew out of that book, and that is because I produced the Red Nation podcast that this book came into my life. So it's like that to me, I hope is something that I can bring to others who listen to the show. Obviously, you all only one person produces the show, but by listening to it, and hopefully down the line somebody watches his YouTube video, they read parts of the book, and it changes, say, their view of what's called New France, if they ever had a view of it, of like, oh, what was New France? How did they do it? And so for you, for instance, something that we've talked about is beyond, say, the like the live streaming, which you've like mastered of, beyond my wildest dreams. Your channel has, like, Adnan has done more live streams in a week than I do in like 6 months. Sometimes Adnan is a legit live streaming addict. But it's like that hope for me is something that, like, oh, okay, Adnan can now do lectures, and now I'm pushing him to do this. So everybody who watches, who's a fan of his show, say that he should do this. But I'm hoping Adnan and I record some lectures of his on the Crusades, because that's what he does. And we produce them into lectures, we produce them into videos, and then we premiere them as live premieres so people can chat and stuff. And maybe after the fact, Adnan hosts a seminar, a kind of small closed seminar for, and you can paywall that content, because at the end of the day, this stuff does cost resources, and you do have to book it, and you do have to support these things. So you come up with a way, and I'm hoping that this can be a model for other academics who can pursue this, who can say, like, hey, I don't have to live behind the paywall, which is to say in the university, that my knowledge doesn't belong to Queen's University, right? That the knowledge you accrued all these years of studying and reading is immensely valuable. And it's not even just the knowledge, and this is why I always say this when I'm producing. Like, as a producer, I see myself as like a kind of John Candy character in Cool Runnings, that like I find people who are naturally good at podcasting, and they're called professors, and they might not know that they're good podcasters, although increasingly professors go on podcasts, but I think a lot of professors never see themselves hosting a show. I mean, you're different, Adnan. You were hosting radio before this, so it's not like, but I think what I brought it, like I hope that like one thing that I've done by pushing you into the show, and hopefully the next phase for us in the production of your show is to do this course, is that, yeah, man, like the university, there's a hunger for the stuff that academics do. There's a real hunger for it, especially if you're good at it. And some academics are so good. I mean, I know it's easy to shit on academics, really, especially being out of that world. But some academics, especially senior ones, are so good at distilling knowledge, because that's the hard part. It's one thing to have knowledge, but distilling it and presenting it to people who don't have a background for it, that's the skill you develop teaching undergrads. I mean, I don't lament my career choices, but one thing that I'm really sad about not becoming an academic and not getting a job, partly because my personality is the way that it is, but for other reasons too. But like,
you've seen a rant with the interviews. Yeah,
I would rant in my interviews. I would talk about gardening and growing potatoes, because I have one setting. It's Sina. Someone sent me to Sina one day, and that's all I could do. So I could never like restrain it. But it's like the academics have this real skill that they develop talking to students year in, year out, honing that skill. I mean, these are Olympians in some ways of information. I know that sounds kind of corny, but really the ability of a human being to present information that other human beings don't have. I mean, this is called teaching, but this is not a skill that comes to most people. Whereas academics have this skill, but their audience is this small group of people, many of whom do not want to be there doing what they're doing. So I'm hoping that for the future, even if I get kick me off of YouTube, fine. But like, they can't kick me off the internet. They can't kick me off of having friends. Like, they can't stop me from knowing people who are smart, so that maybe I'll just become a full-time producer of courses that hopefully we'll be doing, that we can take this knowledge and take it, and finally it doesn't, and let's see YouTube ban your Crusader lectures. I don't see that happening anytime soon. That's one thing that kind of like normie content is something that will never get red flagged the way that this podcast can be in the future. And on top of that, it will bring hopefully people who have never heard of you before to your channel for that, and then they stay for the live streams, they stay for the long form content and stuff. And so that's something I want to commend you for in your work, because I've noticed, obviously I produce your show, so I see what you're up to all the time. So it's like, it's something that you've done an amazing job at, which is networking your vast network of colleagues and friends to come on your show. And in a lot of ways that this is something that you and I share. You're like, let's just do an episode. Why not? Like, you don't think about it. You don't have any, like, let's do it. Why not? Like, why not? And you just show up and you're there, and, and it's great. And so this is something that if you are an academic and you do have something to say and you're not like a cowardly lib, and obviously, and you have the security to do what you do, I suggest you sort of follow Adnan's lead. Like, there's nothing stopping you from talking online. Like, they want to convince you, and shutting down my show, I think is kind of a signal of like, of something that, like, oh, if you're like him, that's what will happen to you if you talk like him. And I think some of my clients, I won't say their names, took that as a lesson of, oh, Sina's too radical, and they were like, oh, Sina, you should have controlled yourself. But it's not really that. It's that, like, make them come after you, say stuff until they come after you, and when they come after you, find your allies, find your comrades. And it's like, that's something that I try. It's like, be fearless. You have nothing to lose by talking and sharing your views. And that's like, that to me is something that if you are an academic listening to this, reach out to me. I'll show you. It's not hard. This isn't rocket science. You go in front of a camera, you plug your mic in, you sit and you talk, and don't let them bully you into silence. I mean, maybe you have reasons, maybe there's career reasons. I understand. Like, not everybody has the freedom that you have. You're a senior academic, and you're in a less, you're not also the kind of guy who can be bullied into silence. That's just not who you are. But some people can be, and I don't begrudge them for that. But we're also at a point in our human history where being silent isn't going to help the species, man. Like, being silent is done. It's like we're past silence. The world is burning. Everything's it's like a baked potato. We're living inside of a baked potato, and you have to speak out now. So anyways, that's my rant. That was a long rant.
Well, I mean, I think it's nice of you to mention that, there are, well, I think first thing is you as a producer, even if, yes, they ban the East is a podcast on whatever flimsy grounds they can invent, there are other ways to continue to do the work that you do. And you've created a network, a kind of ecosystem. It's a smallish ecosystem, but it is an ecosystem of compatible interacting programs. I mean, along a spectrum, like there is Makdisi Street, and it's great. I love listening to Makdisi Street. It isn't that I would always, accept every bit of their analysis, but it's really engaging. And they're, three fascinating scholars who happen to be brothers, having good conversation. And that's something that is rare to be able to engage with that, all the way to Red Nation and Lara Shihai's, psychic militancy. So there is a kind of network and an ecosystem that, has been created that is robust, in its own way, and is more than the sum of each of these individual programs.
Yes, exactly.
Because they create a world of learning, of engagement, of possibilities, of how we can think and act otherwise, to have a world that is otherwise, right? You need, an ecosystem. You can't just have like one kind of person talking about this. You need to have it be part of a community where people are bringing different components, different inflections, different knowledge bases all together. And so that's like, I think, a serious accomplishment that will be going forward, until they ban everybody, right? All of us, right? So that's kind of good to have done that. The second thing I think that is also where I'm interested is, of course, we've been through this genocide, the most intense phases of which were absolutely intolerable, without some kind of companionship, some kind of collective analysis to even survive it emotionally, as we are watching, the brave people of Palestine be subject to such incredible violence. So we did do a lot of like those kinds of anti-imperialist, programs, and a lot of live streams, and then the Iran war, which is an outgrowth of, the genocide in Gaza. It's all connected in West Asia. But, these have been emergencies where we have had to adapt and engage in a certain way. But for the next kind of phase, I think we also have to be building towards longer term kind of education and organizing, not just reacting to events and their unfolding, but actually preparing the ground with knowledge of history, knowledge of politics, and a sense of what the possibilities for organizing are to build some kind of alternate institutions and possibilities for a better livable future. That has to be a longer term project. It's both. We want the empire to collapse, but we also want some roots of something that you can build on to be developing in its place, right? Of like that. So that, I feel like one thing that we can do, and what I would be excited to do, is that idea of trying to do more with the expertise that I have and do versions of what I do in class online, publicly, with more of a sense of this is a resource for us, rather than this is a fascinating world to learn about, which it is. It is that. That's what it is for my undergraduate students, broadly speaking, because that's the framework of academia as you study these eras of history, or whatever, literature or whatever, because for the sake of itself, because it is worth, that's the humanistic project. And I love the humanistic project. However, that is liberal Western academy kind of taking the genuinely political and practical possibilities that this knowledge could lead to kind of out of the, and it's not because I think knowledge should be instrumental. That's the corporate capitalist logic for it. However, it should be something that is character forming, political forming, world making, imagination stimulating, to think and feel directed towards how do you change the world, right? How do you make it better? That's a different kind of context, which you cannot just take that approach in the liberal Western academy. You can't take that as the goal and purpose that we are here together for. But you can online in your own, you can take the same knowledge and say the framework for investigating these things and learning these things is because there is merit and value for our own political practice and our own education and organizing together. And so that's what I would like to do with some of these courses, like the survey course that I'm teaching this coming fall about, kind of early, origins of Islam in ancient Near East and late antiquity and the transformations, that happen, in West Asia, and also how this history has been systematically framed through an Orientalist and Zionist prism to represent Islam, Muslims as colonizers who don't belong in the regions of the world that they exist in, i.e. Palestine, is one, but, the whole kind of framework, even for certain forms of Iranian nationalism, is, Islam is just an Arab imposition upon, our society. And this is what the Shah kind of constructed an idea of pre-Islamic Iranian history as the true source of our identity, and everything that comes after it actually is foreign, is imposed, is unnatural, is illegitimate. And, so I would like to kind of take my history, of this early period and the formation of Muslim societies, but also what I would say Islamicate societies, that is mixed, multi-religious, multi-ethnic, multi-linguistic societies that existed for centuries before the modern era, and ideas of ethno-nationalism or linguistic nationalism imposed themselves in societies that were totally unsuited for this. So to really understand this kind of slow process by which societies and cultures develop and change, to confront contemporary ideas that are used politically to divide us, to suppress the region, to prevent the region from actually achieving sovereignty, right? So I think this would be valuable to have this kind of course that is like, take the academic knowledge, but bring it into some relation with what we're all dealing with and thinking about now. And that's also quite apart from the Crusades, another course I'll be teaching, and the course that I'm doing for Gaza of guerrilla history, anti-colonial resistance. I think the next phase for my channel and my project, envisioning what is it that we can do on this platform while we have it, is to try and do things that would make publicly valuable this kind of, course and academic knowledge and information, but re-enliven it by bringing it into relation with contemporary material conditions and the way in which our understanding and portrayal and representation of the past has been part of the way in which we have been propagandized out of recognizing the solidarities that we have, experienced as peoples in history for millennia, in order to impose new ideas that allow for exploitation, division, etc. So that would be, I think, something, a direction to go and explore with these platforms. Like, what's the next thing we can do, with them. So, if people think that that's interesting, I mean, I've had definitely Sina's been encouraging that, and it takes time to organize, develop it, etc. But if people think that that's a good way to go, then that's what we have to do. I mean, we're here for that, right? Really.
Yeah, and I think there's also something inside of this too, is that like on the time that I've been running this show, we've experienced like a couple of it's been like an ongoing media revolution and it's like, they call it the pivot to video. It started kind of in the mid 2010s. I kind of see it as part of a sort of wider, a kind of wider trend of bandwidth going up, download speeds going up, space and sort of accessibility of content going up, and also increased ubiquity of personalized screens. So that's such that when I started undergrad, as I point out on my show, sometimes like I started at the end of my undergrad is which is like 2005. That was like 20 years ago now. Geez, that's when I got my first laptop, and that was it felt like, and that was before smartphones. Like I had like a phone and stuff, obviously, but it wasn't getting that laptop and like moving around and like plugging in and connecting to Wi-Fi, which was also kind of just becoming a normal thing then. Like to now, where people are watching this on their phones in a subway. Like literally, someone may be watching this on their phone in a subway station right now as they wait, or like on like one of their job sites, where they're bored and their supervisor isn't there and they're just like watching it on their phones. I'm in this like little rectangle up there. So personal media and video, and not everybody is watching the video. Obviously, we've talked about that there's there's an audio audience, video audience. But I do think that with the rise of video, and also the ability to make video cheap, like cameras are cheap now. They're not expensive. They're not like there's like, you have a phone. That phone, you can buy a tripod. You can you can get a mic that's not that expensive, and you can make high quality 4K content almost. And no one will notice that you're like whatever, like just hanging out there in your basement. Like, so the bar has been lower, has like the bar for making good content has been lowered, that it's accessible now in a way that hasn't been before, such that. And even now they have like Descript and stuff. I mean, it doesn't really work well, but these podcast recording platforms also have editors inside of them. Now, don't do that. This is an editor talking to you. Pay someone, even just a little bit, to do it for you, because there's a lot of like little flourishes that they can add. And because remember, people are watching you, let's say, doing your content, and then they watch high quality content on the next thing that has all these bells and whistles, and inevitably what happens is you look like an amateur, which isn't the worst thing in the world. Who cares? But at the end of the day, it's not much. It doesn't take much to sort of elevate your media work to the point where it looks like a professional, whatever, like a serious thing. And remember, that's the easy part. The technical part is the easy part. The hard part is the content. It's the words. And that's where a lot of people have a lot of good stuff inside of them. So even if you're not even an academic, if you're like an expert in fucking ants, like go and make your ant content, go and do it. Like nothing is stopping you. Like take high quality video of ants running around and narrate it. And probably someone will be interested in that. And there's no limit to what you can do. So it's 2 hours now. We should probably wind down.
You should, yeah.
I thank everyone. I really want to thank everyone who helped bring back my show. I never in a million years, I said this to a couple of friends, like I could have been, in another lifetime, I could have been like writing obscure things about like Dickens trivia and like presenting it at a conference at like literally this time, like August, which is like where this big Dickens conference is hosted. Like I could have been doing that. I could have been writing for an audience of 400, but instead they kicked me out. They said, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here, see me. And as a result, I'm here, like I wandered into this sphere, and it was audio only when I started, and I didn't know anyone. And like 8 years here, 8 years later, I'm here and I'm talking. So, and you're here, whoever's listening to this. So this is like a thank you to everyone who's watched my show, everyone who's interacted with my content, anyone who's retweeted me and the crazy things I say, anyone who has like been on my show, for God's sakes, anyone who's supported my show with their money. This is like a heartfelt thank you. I don't thank people enough, and I'm like shy about it for some silly reason. Really, I should. So I really sincerely thank you all. Please, 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 please find a Gaza fundraiser to donate to. In the meantime, I'm gonna link to one right now, and if you're still here, please help him, or find somebody else. And I've offered to people that if you do sign up for a Gaza fundraiser, and if you donate to a Gaza fundraiser, I'll give you, like, let's say, I don't know, $30, $25. I'll give you a year's subscription to my podcast. Like if you just show me the receipt, show me the screenshot that you donated. It doesn't have to be to this one that I just posted, but it could be to anyone, really. Just do that. Instead of donating to my show, donate to a Gaza podcast, Gaza fundraiser, or Lebanon or Iran or anything. Just show. That's what we're here for. I mean, that's what this is like, to help people fight imperialism and to survive imperialism is part of our job here. So just send me a message somewhere and say that, okay, send me my free gift subscription, and it's yours. I'm happy to give it away. I mean, it's the same. It doesn't hurt me, and it helps someone else. And if you want to support my show in addition to that, great. If you don't, that's fine too. But thank you, and thank you, Adnan, for your patience. Sometimes I'm an annoying producer and I bug you a lot, and you take a lot of abuse. And your patience and your humility and all of this is amazing. And you're not like a lot of academics. You're not up here all in your head. So that's one of the reasons why people love your show. So I thank you, Adnan, and I thank everyone here. And
thank God you're back.
Yeah, I'll be back. And if they cancel my channel again and it's permanent, I'll start a new channel. I'll start 50 more. They'll never stop me. Is it closed? Shoot. Is it closed? Oh, it's closed. Shoot, there's another one. I'll find it and I'll link to it. It will, and yeah, you can support it, and you can support me. And Adnan, maybe you have some final comments?
Well, just I think that conversations like this, even if it was a bit of a meta conversation about the channel and it ends up going places simply because we're talking about real things in these spaces, and that's why you got banned. Thankfully, you got unbanned. But let's keep working and push the boundaries. That's what we're here to do, and definitely support a Gaza fundraiser. I'm also gonna, ask you perhaps to support or help my students in Gaza who are taking my online course on guerrilla history, anti-colonial resistance, so that they can do something exciting, hopefully, for their final projects. I'm trying to post the link to the Chuffed fundraiser, but YouTube comments seems to think that it's some kind of spam and doesn't like it. But, look it up. Spocks for Gaza. Okay, third round of Spocks for Gaza. You can make a donation there as well. But also, don't forget to like this stream, share it with others, and subscribe to The East is a Podcast right now. Show your support for this wonderful channel.
Thank you, I'm on a link. I found the Instagram page. It's in the chat for Spocks for Gaza. Just follow them on Instagram, and you can get to that. But yeah, please, everyone, donate. Send me the link. I'll give you a free annual subscription. At least $25. Show it, prove it, and it's yours. And I can give you. And thank you, everyone. And we'll dip here. Thank you, everyone. Sorry for all the ranting, but I know you guys like it, so I'm not sorry. Bye, everyone.